Hey everybody, sPidA here, the coming soon podcast, of course, look from San Antonio, Texas, being joined by David Mendez. Of course, my man, how are you doing today, sir?
I am excellent, brother. Thank you for having me, man. When I got the message of being on your podcast, I was like, man, that's pretty cool. I'm actually being
Um,
invited to be on a podcast, so thank you.
yeah, finally you get some TV time, man. I know
Yeah,
you've been making movies, bro, but yeah, man. I mean, that's the reason I have you here. We just talked to prior, and of course, you are from Laredo, Texas,
yep,
military retired military veteran. Thank you for your service, sir.
thank you.
And now living here in San Antonio with the family, correct?
Yes, we
Let
retired,
me
came back here.
Yes, sir. And let me ask you, bro. I mean, when it comes to making movies, man, I mean, has this been something since like childhood? I mean, were you always like, man, I want to create something?
Um, I'll be honest. As a kid, like many of us back in the '90s, when not both of my parents worked, so I was called what's called a latchkey kid.
Right.
Basically, my form of entertainment was movies, and anything I could watch on TV. So
Right.
my imagination always has been captured by movies.
Right.
And then it just I don't know. I've always loved movies. Period. Just watching movies.
Yeah.
It wasn't until I retired and came back to San Antonio and started school that I started meeting other people who are in the film industry here in San Anto that were also veterans, and they got me hooked because a lot of it was military regimented because everybody has their own job and is very specific.
Right.
You know your job, you're good, and then everything works out well. But the minute you mess up your part of the job, everything else kind of falls down. So I was good because I was transitioning over.
Right.
So I found another home in film once I did that, and because my original love of just watching film, I was like, man, this is cool. So that little 13-year-old kid in me
Yeah,
like
man.
opened his eyes even bigger. I was like, wow, not only can I watch them, but I can make them now.
Yeah.
And it's not that hard, but it is hard, but it's
Right.
not hard once you're in it. You know what I mean? And that's the point of like I try to do tell a lot of people, I'm like, look, if my dumbass who learned English late in life did all this and I could still do it, why can't you? You know what I mean? And that's one of the things about our movies that we push raza a lot. You know what I mean? So
No, no, for sure, man. And of course, man, I mean, I was privileged, honored to be able to receive a link. I mean, I ended up watching both movies that you've actually made. Now,
oh man.
man, I got to ask you about the first movie, bro.
Go
Tell us
for it. Go for
about
it.
that one, man.
Um Lowriders versus Zombies from Space was
Love it.
originally thanks was originally a short film. It was for a class project. But I got blessed enough to meet Ronald Mercado, which is it was he's my I don't want to say partner because he's not my partner. He's a really close friend and almost like a freaking I don't want to use the word
Mentor?
use either. He eggs me on. He's my hype man. That's a
There
good word.
you go.
He's the ultimate hype man. He got me thinking that we could do a full feature film because of all the other people that he knew and that he brought on. And before you know it, oh, and also because I had been working with Bajito magazine, which is a lowrider magazine out of here, out of San Anto. And so I knew a lot of the community here in San Anto for lowriding, and we're like, man, fuck it, dude. Let's get everybody together. Let's just have fun, do a feature film. Let's show we can do it. Before you know it, we went from like a 20-minute short to 45 or 48, 49-minute feature film, and we're like, fuck it, dude. And then we put it in the festival, and we're like, oh, all right, cool, yeah, we had fun with it. Yeah, I see, yeah, quedó. And I discovered how to put it on Amazon. I was like, okay, cool. Uh, yeah, that's it. We're done with it. 3 years after we released it, some crazy dude from Cali who had a festival back in the day when we first ran it. He's
Right.
like, bro, I'm interested in your film. I'm like, yeah, whatever, man. He's like, no, 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 no. I know you have it on Amazon, but I think I could do something for you. I'm like, get the fuck out of here, dude. Yeah, it's lived his life. It's
Yeah.
cool, you know.
Let
Yeah,
it go,
give me a
man.
shot. Yeah, give me a shot. I'm like, all right, cool. Here's your shot. Dude, put it on Tubi, on Voodoo, Vimeo, on Apple TV, on almost everything. And we got interviewed to go on like a couple other newspapers that were horror based,
Right.
and it's taken off, man. I'm really surprised that little rinky dink film, which I mean, we love it to death.
Yeah.
That's our first baby. Um, it took off and it has a little cult following because I look at
Right.
the analytics of how it's watched, and I'm like, man, people watch this film. That's so cool, man. Because after a while, it's no longer mine. It's the distributor for another. I can't remember how many more years.
Right.
So it whatever they decide to do with it, I'm like, but it's crazy because again, it was one of those like I want to prove the fact that we can make a film,
Yeah.
that Raza could make a film, and it was a community thing where everybody from the lowrider community,
Yeah.
VFW, filmmakers, stunt people. We had like 10 stunt people out there, makeup artists that were coming down from Austin. We had almost 50 people in background helping us make the movie. And then, of
Man.
course, all the lowrider clubs here from San Anto that were just kicking it, having fun. So, yeah,
And
that
how hard was it to convince those locals to jump in? And I mean, when you proposed the movie, was everybody's like, yeah, let's go, or were people
um,
hesitant?
when we needed extras, all it took was a brisket plate and free beer.
And I was gonna say it took place in the bar, so yeah, free beer,
Yeah,
man. Yeah, why not? I'd go, man. That's actually pretty
yeah.
cool,
It
man.
was at the VFW, and
Right,
Carlos Martinez, who runs shows out of there normally, he helped me out. He kind of passed the word out that we needed extras, and so he
nice,
started reaching out to everybody. He's like, "Dude, let's have a get down, bring your cars." And then back then, before he passed away, C-Loc, which is he was really really into the lowrider, and he used to run the car hops.
right.
También he started calling everybody up, and before you know it, we have like 10 or 20 different car clubs out there just chilling, having a great time, asking for beer and some brisket. And I'm like, hell yeah, man, let's do this. So,
No, man. Well, I mean, it was a fun short film. I mean, like you stated, and I enjoyed it, man. I mean, it had pretty much. When I watched it, I'll say this, man. It was nostalgic. I
yeah.
mean, just the drive. I'm like, man, I drive by there like on a regular. I see the same size. I see the bridge. I mean, right there by downtown, and I
Yeah.
was just like, man, okay, you know what? I mean, I like that aspect. Of course, it caught me right away when as far as the scene, the lowrider, the car shows. I mean, I grew up with all that here in San Antonio, but for me, I mean, just the title itself locked me in. I'm not gonna lie. When you sent it to me, I was like, oh man, I gotta watch this, bro. I mean, it was just something I didn't know what to expect. I kind of in my head I pictured a couple of things, but I was just like, man, let me see, and man, you guys delivered, man. I mean, it showcased that you guys have fun with it. It showcased that you guys, you know, had fun. Period. I
Yeah.
mean, everybody that was in it, of course. Now that was a fun film. I mean, you guys, like you said, I mean, it was your baby, or it is your baby. You guys pretty much, or yourself, did you regroup and say, okay, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and make a film. And of course, this is a second film. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that one.
Yeah. After Loretta versus Zombies, man, we officially formed our production company, which was Silent Flight Media.
Yeah.
And it was again a bunch of us that had been in helping everybody out. We're like, dude, if we could do one, why can't we do another one?
Yeah.
And it took us a little bit because again, when we started filming that, right as we finished, COVID happened and some other stuff, and just it took us longer than what we needed to. But with Sacred Mask, that one came from an idea that I had with another guy in Dallas who had originally signed us up to do his film, which was kind of lucha based, but it was totally different. It was like a luchador versus a werewolf or something like that. And we're like,
Okay.
okay, cool, but we like the concept of luchador because most of us again grew up watching lucha films, El Santos, Blue Demon, and all that. And I was like, man, dude, we did a lowrider movie that showcased our culture. Why can't I do a lucha film that showcases lucha or the luchador figure
Right.
like the old lucha films and kind of make it more modern? And let's see if people like it enough, then maybe we could continue with that idea and create our own superhero. Because up until now, and everybody's saying, "Oh, Blue Beetle is the new
Oh
Latino
yeah.
superhero representation." I'm like, yeah, but we need more.
Yeah.
We need more brown out there because we
Oh
do. You know what I mean? Not everybody's and I'm not trying to downplay anybody. Not everybody's a gangster. Not everybody comes from Cali. Not every, you know what I mean? So it's like we need that infusion of brownness. Otra vez, in the 90s we had it, but I think it's time again that we have it. And I think for me, that's where Sacred Mask came from. The idea that we could take an old idea like lucha films and kind of modernize it and give it a new flair.
No, no, for sure, man. And of course, that was another one. I mean, when I saw Sacred Mask, El Secreto de la Mascara, I like the fact that you guys put both the same title. I mean, in English and Spanish, man, because of course, it's culture. I mean, for those that are bilingual, I'm here from here in San Antonio, man. My primary language was Spanish. I was able to read and write in Spanish before English, man. So it's just one of the things that happened. But growing up, man, I mean, of course, watching reruns of like you mentioned, Mil Mascaras, versus the monsters, the mummies, the vampires, and all
Yeah.
that stuff, man. And that was, for me, that was one of the earlier films that got me interested in horror, man. When I started watching those, I was like, oh man, and it got me into other ones, of course. But yeah, that was another film that hit home. I enjoyed the film. I mean, the storyline was great. I had a good hook. The actors, I mean, of course, being Raza, man, everybody, local. I mean, you yourself mentioned that a lot of them were wrestlers.
Yes.
You see,
About 98%. We had one non-wrestler, and that was Paige Stakely. She plays Mariposa. She's actually not a wrestler. She's the
oh, okay.
only
I thought she
non-wrestler in
was.
the film. Monday?
I thought she was a wrestler.
No, no, bro. We actually sent her. Hybrid School of Wrestling here in San Anto
Yeah.
was gracious enough to take her in, and I think it was like almost 6 months,
Wow.
roughly 6 months. Trained her how to do backflips, how
Yeah.
to do all the urucana and all that, all
Yeah.
everything that she did. They pretty much had a hand in training her, and
Wow.
they
Yeah. Well,
put her
she
up with
definitely
different.
impressed, man.
But yeah, she like a lot of people are like, man, you could be a professional wrestler, and she could have, because the dedication she put in as an actor to become a wrestler, to look the part and be the part. We were all like, wow, that's badass. But yeah, she's the only non wrestler in the film.
Man, you see, that could have fooled me, man. Because I was gonna say I couldn't have picked who was who, because everybody did a great job. Of course, when you were writing this, I mean, I think on your page itself on Facebook, you had put 2020. So the storyline, of course, started before COVID, like you said.
Yes.
And when did you know it was ready? I mean, did you have to revise it like a couple thousand times and see, make some changes, or how did that work?
Um, we first came up with a story. I think it was 2019, right after LVZ. We started brainstorming this one. Um, but it took us maybe about a year and a half before we had the first final draft, and I submitted it because San Antonio was having a competition. They were giving away a $5,000 grant to do film, but you had to have it complete and all that. So we turned it in, and we didn't get accepted. I was like, man, chingado. So after that, maybe it took me another year to get the final script to where we were pretty much ready. So I think by the time we started shooting, I was on the ninth version of it. But even then, which is funny because I like everybody who directs, we go in with this preconception of our characters. I was married to, Mariposa was this, Inspector Matthews was this,
Yeah.
but then you start casting people and they rewrite the whole chingadera for you, and you're like,
Yeah.
man, okay, yeah, that makes more sense, bro. Oh, shit, yeah, because like we had Trey, which plays Inspector Matthews. He's like, hey, David, I have a question. Because I'm an inspector and I'm in this situation, would you say, can I play around with this line? Because I think, and I'm like, you know what, bro? It's your character. If you could convince me that not Trey, but Inspector Matthews would do this because that's who you are
Right.
and it's not out of your character, then by all means, take me there. You know what I mean? Because the script is a guideline. Because it really is a guideline.
Yeah.
After a while, your characters have to be organic.
Yeah.
And when you have good actors like we had, and I was blessed to have them, they start rewriting some things on you and they start changing lines and you're like, fuck, that's not in the script. You're like, how am I gonna cut this, man? It's not in the script. But you listen to them, and you're like, wow, yeah.
They made
That
it their own.
Yep.
Man,
And
you
it's
see, and the inspector, man, he did a great job. I was very
yeah,
impressed with his character, man. I was like, man, okay, you know what? And I, I could kind of tell. Well, I don't even know if that. I mean, that was an actor, so he was acting. But was that close to home? I mean, does he normally present himself like that, or was that just totally character? Because it got me, dude. I mean, I'm not gonna lie.
I'm going to tell you the truth. Dr. Trey Gwynn is the program chair at the University of Incarnate Word Com Department.
Oh man, okay.
So I met him because he was my program chair, and he started acting, and he asked me for the part. Originally, he wanted to be a luchador, and I always kid around, and not that he did, but I always kid around the fact that he sent me half naked pictures of him trying to flex. Okay, bro, I can't see you like that because you're my professor,
Yeah.
but let me give you this other part. Um, it's not quite that, but that's the funnier version of it. But yeah, he's an actual professor at the university. But he started acting, but he's very eloquent and he's really good.
Yeah.
So once we gave him the part, and again, he started really knowing the part. And he just took off with it, bro.
Nice, man. No, I mean there was a lot of good lines on there, man, and for the most part, I mean for him and the storylines, a lot of his stuck with me. So I was just like, man, okay. I was just curious. I was like, I wonder if he was in law enforcement or if he's in a military, military, because he had
Yeah.
that like straight no BS kind of attitude. And I was like, man, but that was good though, man. He definitely did a great job.
But now to point out the fact, again, going back to what I had said earlier, when I first wrote Inspector Matthews, he was supposed to be a bumbling inspector that everything kind of fell into his lap. You know what I mean? One of
Oh,
those like
okay.
he's dumb, but it just so happens that he gets lucky and in
Right.
life everything falls in place for him. But when Trey started playing him and the way he presented himself, like you said, I
Yeah.
was like, man, no, he can't play that
Yeah.
bumbling professor or that bumbling, inspector. He's really eloquent. He has good poise. Why
Oh yeah.
not let him go with it? You know what I mean? And so his presentation changed the character to be what Inspector Matthews is now.
Man, well, let me ask you because of that. I can see if he would have played the other character, would that have changed the whole movie, like the whole essence?
Yeah.
Because I didn't. I found. I mean, there was drama, there was, suspense, there was a little bit of everything. If he would have been, if he would have done that, I mean, would that have turned it into like a comedy humor like type
I think
film?
it would have been more comedic, especially if you look at the interaction between Inspector Matthews and Max or Jesse.
Yeah.
A lot of it is really snarky, really
Oh
sharp.
yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's almost comedic, but it's not like ha 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 laugh in your face. It's more of comedic because of the timing that they
Yeah.
had. So I think if he was bumbling around and fiddling around with stuff, it would have been more comedic, but in the slapstick kind of like
Right.
joking, and you wouldn't have taken him serious one bit. But I
Right.
think because he's like, oh, you think I love you, or what was the line? Oh, you think I like you because I'm following you around? No, I'm an inspector. That's my job.
Yeah.
So it's that snarkiness that he
Yeah.
had, and that timing. It's almost a comedic timing that he put into his lines, the way he delivered them and everything. I
Yeah.
think worked well, especially with Jesse, because Jesse was always up here, always mad, always angry, and his character was like. There was many times I had to like, bro, Max, bring it down because you're way up there, and I need you to bring it down just a little bit. I know where we're going with this, but the scene needs you to just pa acá, un
Yeah.
poquito más pa acá. So yeah. And I think with him and Inspector Matthews, they had a lot of really good interaction. And a lot of people kind of liked that interaction between them two.
No, yeah, I mean they definitely clicked. I mean there was nothing that paused or delayed anything. I mean, there were, like you said, it was like an actual conversation. It worked, and yeah, they did well, man. I mean, when it comes to him being a professor, like you mentioned earlier, and being an actor now. I mean, are you planning on bringing him back again for a
Yes.
sequel or for future projects?
Yes. Well, we're working on part two because everybody asked us, and we intentionally we left it open ended at the end, because again, like I told you, we thought if we could do a good enough project to where people like it, we could continue on doing these kind of films
Right.
because it doesn't cost as much as what we would normally spend on a horror film,
Right.
but it's entertaining, it's fast paced, it's a really good storyline. And again, if we could reinvigorate the luchador movie genre, by all means, let's do it. You know what I mean? So when we left it open ended, I had already kind of thought, okay, well, maybe the story could go this way, or this way. And everybody keeps asking me, he's like, well, what's going to happen with, you know, Suzette and Jesse? Are they going to get together? Are they this, and that? I'm like, you're going to have to wait till the second part. With
No,
Inspector,
yeah, and that's what makes it good because I mean I'm sure you're not going to tell people. I mean those that are going to be in the movie, they'll find out before we do, of course. But yeah, I'm curious to see which way it goes because there's a lot. You left it open for a lot of possibilities. I like that, so I'm curious. I'm
yeah,
definitely going to be watching now the film itself, and I was trying to look that up real quick. It premiered. I mean, you guys were able to show it at Santico's location here in San Antonio,
yes.
and the outcome, I mean, were you kind of nervous as you guys were doing that? I mean, were you like, man, if people don't show up, or did you guys already know, like, you know what, we have enough following that we're gonna pack house?
Um, it's funny because our red carpet was in Santicos. It was in August, yeah, beginning of August. But for some odd godly reason, a lot stars align or lo que sea, God's blessing. We actually world premiere at Cine Festival, July 11th, 12th. So 2 weeks prior to our red carpet,
Yeah,
Cine Festival jumped the gun, or not jumped the gun, but they kind of accepted us and we premiered there. So when we premiered there, we pretty much had a house of about, I want to say about 100, 150 people there.
yeah,
And a lot of it was family. A lot of it was the cast and crew. And I was like, chingado. In 2 weeks, we're gonna be red carpeting at
yeah,
Santicos, and there's a lot of money involved, and a lot of my sponsors, and I'm my chinetas. So up until like maybe 2, 3 days before the red carpet, we were posting, we were trying to, dude, y'all have to buy tickets from us because we're selling out. Not only that, but we can only sell through us. You can't buy it from Santicos because we've already purchased the time and
oh, okay.
space. And so we're like, dude, come on, please buy the tickets. There, we cannot sell them there at the theater. But luckily, gracias a Dios, 2 days or day before, we finally closed house, and we're like, fine, we're done. We sold every ticket that we needed to sell. Plus, the people that were already, predetermined to go, from the cast and crew. And I was like, man, dude, but I was still nervous because even though they buy them and everything, it doesn't mean they're gonna show up.
Right,
But the day of the screening or the day of the red carpet, I got there. It was 5 o'clock. We were still setting up and everything, and people started showing. And I was like, "Gene, that doesn't, it doesn't start till 6, man."
making me sweat, man.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, when it was time to hit the lights and everything, I introduced the movie, and I looked up and I was like, man, there's only like, let me see, about 10 chairs in the front
Yeah,
that are missing, and everything else is packed. And I was like, wow, man, thank God.
nice, man.
So yeah, I was really happy and impressed that, outside of friends and family, maybe plus one, it was all fans that have been following the project.
Yeah. No, no, for sure, man. And of course, I mean, the fact that you had a lot of wrestlers on there, I mean, I'm sure a lot of their friends and their family wanted to see that, because I mean, everybody that was involved. But yeah, man. I mean, of course, when it comes to the sequel, man, I mean, what are the steps? I mean, what are you guys looking at as far as like the release? Like a year, the end of the year, next year?
No, actually, right now we're working with the distributor for part one. So the way we're looking at it, maybe within the next 4 or 5 months, you might see us start posting, hey, we're gonna first release it on video on demand. And then from video on demand, we're gonna have DVDs available at Walmart and all these other places. And then from there, I'll have it on, after maybe a year, I'll have it on Tubi, Vimeo, and everything else that we normally do. But we've already started prepping for part two because right now we have like half the cast already signed back on to do part two. And we've already kind of contacted a few wrestlers that we wanted to, or not wrestlers, this time we wanted to make it more lucha, so we're actually bringing in luchadores from Mexico, from AAA, from
Oh,
some
damn.
of the guys that have crossed over into the
Yeah.
United States, Impact Wrestling and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
signing them on to do the part two and part three. Oh, part two. Sorry.
But yeah, man. But I mean, of course, because
Second part.
but of course, man. I mean, with the sequel, obviously, I mean, you guys have a lot more opportunity to get more talent. I mean,
Yeah.
are some of the regulars going to come out? Are we going to see the not the professor, but the your buddy do a return again? Your old professor,
Which one? The
the inspector, the
Oh
inspector.
yeah, Inspector Matthews is coming back. Okay, I'll let you in on some of them. Inspector Matthews is coming back. Jesse's coming back, and Mama Pita's coming back.
Nice.
That's all I'm gonna tell you.
Okay, man. And of course, as far as venue, man. I mean, are you guys going to be outdoor, indoor? It's going to be a little bit of both.
For filming or
For filming for the sequel.
for the second part, I want to say we would love to, but it's hard to film outside.
Yeah.
One, because the time changes, and so controlling light sucks ass.
Right. Right.
And one of the tricks that we try to do with this last one, because a lot of times we don't get a lot of audience, and or if we do get an audience, they don't want to stick around for the 5 6 hours that we're
Right.
filming one scene, so they start leaving. ¿Me entiendes?
Yeah.
So if we're inside, we could dim the house lights completely and just have that center light, and then it's an old trick that again, back to the old lucha films that they would do, where it was a straight black backdrop, and it was a wrestling ring, and they were filming, you know what I mean, and they would just blast audience, in the background while they were, doing the lucha. But
Right.
that's how they did the old lucha films. And so I was like,
Oh,
well, maybe if I could get a couple of audiences here and this and that. But again, it's small independent film,
right.
and after 4 5 6 hours of filming, people get tired and they're like, oh, okay, we're leaving, David, thanks. And I'm like, okay, thanks.
Man. And of course, I mean that's one of the things. I mean, when it comes to having extras, because like you said, I mean, a lot of them don't want to be there all day. But are you going to be inquiring for extras, man? Are you going to be needing extras for this one?
We actually we always welcome extras,
Nice.
and mainly because again, we always need, either background actors, we need audience members. I know for the first one we actually called for extras to be luchadores or wrestlers, because
Nice.
we didn't have enough talent. And then after a while, that's when Hybrid School of Wrestling is like, dude, we'll help you out. And so they started throwing in all their wrestlers and all the
Nice.
guys that are coming up to help us out. And I was like, oh well, shit, that's badass. So they saved our ass and on a lot of things, providing the locations, providing some wrestlers, some extras and stuff. So I was like, man, so I owe a lot to Chris Marvel, which is the director at Hybrid. So yeah, but at the second one, we have a couple of locations that we want to use, and we'll definitely be calling out for extras. And that normally my producer, she takes care of that. She starts blasting it out on
Nice.
like San Antonio filmmakers, San Antonio, Texas actors. So there's a couple of Facebook pages that they use to actually call
Right.
for extras.
No, no, for sure, man. Because I definitely want in, bro. I'm gonna let you know right now, man. I mean, if you guys start looking, I'm definitely gonna be there. And I promise you, if I go, I'll be there all 5 hours, bro. I won't leave on you know.
I'll
I'll,
definitely call you, man. I'll definitely call
yeah,
you, especially
I'll
because you
be
said
I'll be that
5 hours.
guy, bro. But yeah, man. I mean, it was your second movie. I mean, the Sacred Mask, of course, man. It was great. I enjoyed it. I'm not just saying that because I have you on here, but it was a great film. Once again, I mean, of course, because it had a lot of San Antonio in it. Of course, I was like, man, I was reminiscing, and I said, okay, I drive by there on a daily, man. A lot of the scenes, just the culture, the relationship they had with the mom, and you know what I mean. Like everything was home. So I was like, you know what, man, I'm sure a lot of people felt like that. Now, because of course, I mean, being Chicano, growing up here in San Antonio, I mean, I could relate to it. Have you heard anything from people that maybe weren't like, Chicano or knew what lucha libre was? I mean, did you get any criticism from non lucha libre fans?
Actually, no. Believe it or not, I get criticism more from my own raza. The fact that one, and this is nothing against what we do or anything, but
Right.
sometimes the way we portray certain lingos,
Right.
or the way we say certain languages, or not languages, the way certain words,
Right.
and
Like
um
slang or
yeah, slang, or they're like, well, we wouldn't use that because when I was coming up, I'm like, I get it, but not all of us are either from here, San Anto,
yeah.
or when I grew up in Laredo, we use this word, but I know it's not commonly used here in San Anto,
Right.
or the Tex-Mex isn't right because whatever, what I
Right.
mean. So a lot of them, they're like, dude, you need to be more authentic. I'm like, well, we are trying to be authentic because we're showing the fact that, like, with Mama Pita, she
Yeah.
spoke a lot more Spanish because she's the abuela.
Right.
And then the mom, like in LVZ, the mom, she spoke both, but it was kind of rough because that's the way
Yeah.
the people from 70s, 80s grew up.
Oh
And
yeah.
then the kid, which was Mario, he didn't spoke any Spanish, but he understood it. But because a lot of our generation is like that. So I portrayed the three different generations
Oh
of
yeah.
Latinos here the way I saw it, at least in LVZ. With Sacred Mass, Jesse spoke, and we were we were we were gracious enough, or not gracious enough, we were lucky enough to have Max Castellanos, who is Mexicano first,
Right.
so his Spanish was really good. And then Mama Pita, she's incredible, and her Spanish is also really good. But with like Don Mario, his is kind of broken a little bit,
Right.
and Suzette was supposed to be La Güerita. You know what I mean?
Right.
And somebody made a comment. She's like, "That's a white girl." I'm like, yes, but if you look at Latinos, we come in all
Oh
sizes,
yeah. Bro.
colors, bro. If you go down to Monterrey, you'll see güeras
Yeah.
with hazel eyes,
Oh
and
yeah. Yeah.
like, or you'll see the negritos that I'm like, bro, they're
Yeah.
you know,
No, you see, and that's one of the things a lot of people don't understand because when Mexico, when slavery was going on, a lot of people were going to Mexico, man, from not just like blacks, that were escaping slavery, but other countries that were like, you know what, we have our own religion, our own, and Mexico was like, yeah, that's fine. And so there's places in Mexico you can go to. You get like Polacks, you get like people that never, they kept their culture and they're still doing what they're doing. So but yeah, man, it's just I mean, people that don't know, I mean, it's just because they've just been here at home, so they can't understand or relate or care. But yeah, man, I mean, I liked it, man. I definitely caught the fact that the grandma was talking Spanish, the mom was like half because. Like I mentioned, for me, my primary language growing up was Spanish, man, and it was because I was the youngest, I was a baby, I didn't go to school yet, I was at home watching novelas and watching, Galavisión and all these films, and I it's the first thing I caught on when I went to my first grade. I didn't even go to pre-K. I went to first grade. The teacher, first thing she asked me was like, you speak Spanish? And I said, sí. And she's like, oh, okay. And next thing I know, I'm in another classroom. And so the teacher's like, okay, talking in Spanish. And she's like, yeah, we're going to read this. We're going to learn English. And I'm like thinking, I already know English. So when she asked me to read something, I started reading it. And she's like, you speak English? And I was like, yes. And she's like, well, what are you doing? This is only for Spanish speaking only. And I was like, I don't, they moved me over here. So they put me back to the class.
yeah,
And so it was like, but you know what? The people, I guess they just assumed like, oh, because I answered in Spanish because she asked me if I spoke it. So I said, well, but yeah, man, I mean, there's a lot of family members in my family that don't speak Spanish. I mean, I'm pretty fluent. My older brothers aren't. They're Chicano. Their Spanish is pretty bad. But yeah, I have a nephew, man. Güero. His kid, Güerita, blue, hazel eyes, and so everybody has one, man. So yeah, man. I mean, of course, criticism like that, man. I mean, I would definitely take it lightly because, being Chicano, I mean, you see everybody here, bro. It's
yeah,
just, and for the most part, a lot of times too, when it comes to lowrider, bro. I mean, I think I was reading in was it in Japan that the culture picked up
yeah.
over there? There's like the culture blew up, and people, there's Japanese out there lowriders and repping the culture because
Like
they love it.
hardcore repping,
Yeah.
with the
So
lokes, with it,
everything, bro.
dressing, everything. It's like, man, dude, even like the Japanese females
Yeah.
look more Chicanas
I was
and
gonna say
cholas
the
than
chinitas, they got the slant eyes, bro. But I mean, and people always tell me they're like, man, you have chinito eyes, and I said, man, I can't see, bro. So half the time I'm squinting because I can't see. So that's where that comes from, man. But yeah, man. But I mean, criticism's gonna happen. I'm sure you already know that. You're gonna get your pros and cons. But I mean, as long as you guys keep having fun with this and people want to see it, of course, man, that's always gonna be a plus. myself, I'm gonna keep you in the loop, man, because like I said, I mean, if this movie starts taking place and you guys start asking for extras, I definitely want to participate in that and promote you guys, man. I mean, I'm here local, so why not? I'll definitely be pushing you guys and see where it goes, bro.
Well, I appreciate it, bro. Yeah, and it if I can, when it comes to criticism, I think the worst criticism we ever got, and it pissed me off a lot because when I first heard it, I was like, man, pinche mamones, because the review said something about it's like, oh, I can't stand people who can't hold a conversation in one language. I think they're uneducated. I was like, wow, dude, that fucking heated me up.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, I'm not making movies
And
please everybody. I'm making movies that represent me,
yeah,
my cultura, because I am Chicano, I am Pocho, and I was like, oh wow, fuck, dude. But now I'm like, dude, yeah, please, if you don't like my movies, if you don't like
next.
the
Yeah.
Mexican Americanness, the Pocho-ness, the Chicano, the whatever you want to call it, the Tex-Mex, don't watch it. It's okay. It's not for you. It's not for everybody.
Exactly, bro. And I
But
will
I'm
say this,
representing
man.
us.
I will say this, bro, because where I work at part time, I was helping a customer one day, and he was upset. He was like pissed. I mean, he was pissed off, and he was like, "Hey, that girl right there, she's a racist." And I was like, "Oh man," I said, "Nombre," and I said, "Nombre," and I look over and he says, "Hey, you're freaking racist." And I was like, I said, "Excuse me?" And he said, "Yeah, man." He's like, I'm not I don't speak Spanish, man. That's racist." And I said, "Bro," I said, "First off, man," I said, "Spanish comes from Spain, bro." I said, "I mean, I'm bilingual, man." I said, "So
Yeah,
if you're not," I said, "that I can't apologize on that, man." I said, "But nah, bro." I said, "I'm not racist, bro." And he's like, "No, no, you're freaking racist, man." And I said, "You know what, man?" I said, "You wanted help. You want. I'm here. What do you need, man? Let me help you so you can get out of here, and we'll both be happy,
yeah,
And he didn't like that. I kept my composure, man. And but I dealt with racism in the '90s, bro. I mean, I've dealt with when the KKK was real big here. They used to show up here
yeah,
in San Antonio, and we used to run them off. And so I dealt with all that. But I mean, for the fact that no, he was a Chicano too, man. They call me a racist, and that's what it bothered me, but I was just like, man, there's stupid people everywhere, man. So I'm not gonna worry about it.
yeah.
But yeah, man. I mean, of course, I mean, we go on, and of course, this movie. I mean, those that watch the first one, of course, are gonna want to watch the second one. And I'm interested to see if it's gonna break barriers, man. Like if it's gonna go into other, I'll say this, bro. When I first started this podcast, I said, you know what? I don't care if I'm number one in San Antonio. I said, even if I'm number one in the Philippines, I said, I'll take it, bro. I said,
Yeah,
because it's not always going to be the same people or local or whatever. I said, but I'd
yeah.
be curious to see if we talked about the Japanese culture, man. I wonder if they'll pick it up out there, man.
Believe it or not, we're trying to get it translated and dubbed so I can go into that market. Because that was one of the things that when we sat down with my distributor, he's like, well, what's your goal? I'm like, look, I have two markets I want to reach: Mexico and Japan. If I
Nice,
could break into those two markets, because again, the Japanese market for lowriding and for wrestling is hot.
big, bro.
If you look at how they treat,
Yeah,
I think it's New Japan Wrestling or something like
yeah.
that.
New Japan,
That whole culture, bro, it's
La
ridiculous.
Mascara, they get, bro.
They love mascaros. They freaking what is it called? Tiger um
Tiger Mask.
Tiger Mask. Ándale.
Yeah, yeah.
Este Chavo was Tiger Mask for a while.
Yes,
And
sir.
then when Andre the Giant was over there, they put him in a mask. So yeah, they love that. You know what I mean? So if we could break into that market, bro, I'd be like happy as hell because
You
again,
see, man, and what I'm gonna do because with the combat sports podcast and everything, I have a lot of people that I network with in Europe, in Japan, in the Philippines. Like I'm gonna start throwing that out there, man. I'm curious to see because I love the fact that the market's broad. I mean,
yeah,
of course, you want local, you want Texas, you want everybody, but I mean, like I said, even if you're number one in the Philippines, if you're number one in Japan, like bro, like I can see this blowing up, and especially if you guys get the subtitles, because
yeah,
I mean, if we got to read the subtitles from their movies, it's their turn.
yeah. Yeah, I love anime, bro. So I'll be reading like, okay, cool, yes, Naruto freaking kicks ass, But yeah, um, That's one of the things. Again, like I said, we're working on trying to get it subtitled because if we can, si Dios permite, man, we're gonna try to break into that market.
All
And
right.
it's a representation. If they could eat up the lowrider, because they did when we put LVZ in the Japan market, it really did well.
Yeah.
Because again, it low riding. So hopefully con este with the wrestling, it'll be the same if not bigger. Because again, we do have some connections that we're trying to bring in, and we're trying to move around. Hybrid again, they've been working behind the scenes, helping us kind of do some stuff. And I'm like,
Nice.
so cross fingers and prende las velitas y todo,
No, hey man, I'm just curious to see. Maybe next year we'll see Mariposa in the ring, bro. Maybe she'll pick up and say like, you know what? Maybe I do want to be a lucha libre wrestler, man. We'll see, you know. But man, I'm looking forward to it, man. Like I said, I mean, I wouldn't have been able to tell that she wasn't a wrestler, man, because she did a phenomenal job. From the main character to the side character, the families. I mean, everybody did great, man. I mean, I was impressed. I had fun with the movie. You know, I'm, like I said, I'm not just saying it because you're here or I'm talking to you, but because it did represent a lot of what I like. Which is
Yeah.
lucha libre, horror. Like I mentioned earlier, growing up and watching, Mil Máscaras versus La Momias, or all those movies, man. I just love them. One question, bro.
Go for
Uh,
it.
when it comes to having merchandise, are you guys going to be doing those old school Mexico lucha libre wrestlers? I
We,
want one, bro. I want one.
okay, cool. I'll let you know. Again, it's interesting because with our first film, all we did was T-shirts and the posters. So with the second film, I don't think we were ready. I don't think no. I know we weren't ready for everybody wanting a little piece of the characters.
Yeah,
Um, we have gotten such a badass reaction from people who said, "Yeah, dude, man, I remember this. Oh, dude, I want a little freaking tecolote de oro
yeah,
figure. I want a. How can I get a mask? I've been asked like 3, 4 times, how can I get a mask? I'm like, it's not cheap.
yeah. No, yeah. I mean,
No,
that's for
but
sure.
but yeah, we're working on certain uh merchandise
Yeah,
outside of the t-shirts and the posters and stuff like that. Hopefully by September, because it does take time. Like I said, we weren't prepared. I had hoped that the movie did well, but I didn't think it was going to do as well it has done now. And gracias a Dios, and thanks to again the community in San Antonio, because that's one of the things that I love about San Antonio, that we are probably the biggest, largest hometown ever.
yeah,
And if you understand that phrase, you understand what it means, because everybody knows everybody, and everybody's always willing to help everybody. And once you get into that cultura and that sharing of familia here in San Antonio, man, dude, doors open up for you. People are
oh,
just like, yeah,
definitely.
no, vente pa acá, mijo. And you're like, shit, you're not even family, and you're calling me mijo. You know what I mean? He's like, no, 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 carnal, vente pa acá, carnal. And I'm like, all right, cool, yeah, carnal. I know what that means. That means,
Oh,
brother,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
we're good. But yeah, once people start doing that for you here in San Anto and open their hearts to you, you're like, wow, it's not what I expected as far as the degree of success for the film. You always want that.
right.
But when people start telling you, it's like, bro, I cried when he was in the hospital with Mama Pita.
Yeah,
I was like, damn, dude. Yeah, because that was my abuela.
yeah,
I had that not too long ago with my abuela where I had to say goodbye to her. And I was like, chinga, you're making me cry.
yeah. Same here,
So
man. I mean, I
I
I
had
grew up with my
that
grandma.
interaction, you know what I mean? So when you have that interaction with people and you see how much they love it and how much they put themselves into it, because again, most of us grew up watching Santos movies. We know the language, we
Right,
speak it, you know what I mean? We see ourselves in it. And that's really what we wanted to do. We wanted not to just entertain you, but to plant that little seed of our raza, our canalismo, or everything that we are in this film. And I didn't think it was going to be this successful, and it has been. And I'm like, man, gracias a Dios. But at the same time, I'm like, we weren't prepared. And
no,
now I was
man.
like, órale, a huevo.
Yeah, no other choice but to keep going, man. So
Yeah,
that's great, bro. And of course, man, like I mentioned, dude. I mean, I'm definitely gonna. look forward. Oh, I look forward to actually, what's coming. I'm gonna be keeping an ear out for you guys to announce, as far as filming and everything else. But definitely have your producer hit me up, man, because I want in. And we'll go from there, man. But I do thank you, bro. I mean, of course, great job. Everybody that's gonna be watching this, of course. Tell us where they can find the movie. I mean, I know you guys are on Facebook, but where else can they locate you guys?
Right now, if you're looking for the first film, Lores versus Zombies, again, we're on Amazon Prime, we're on Tubi, Vimeo, or Hulu, not Hulu, Mentiroso. Um, I think that's iTunes, and that's it. Um, with Sacred Mask, which is a new film, we just released it
Right,
like maybe a week, 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago. At the beginning of the month, beginning of August. We haven't made any um moves to put it on video on demand yet.
right,
Hopefully, si Dios permite, by September, I'll announce where it's going to be, start to distribute it.
right,
And mainly because we're waiting for a couple of the festivals. We've already had, again, 2 or 3 festivals that hit us up that they want to premiere it, or not premiere it, but they want to screen it. And I'm like, fine, let's do this. You know what I mean?
sweet,
So once we get done with that, I'm all up to, putting it. I know Max, which is Jesse, had talked about doing a road show of going to different cities and putting a show, basically a show
yeah,
where people could go watch the movie at a theater and everything like that. So we're still working on that. So there's a lot of, like I said, we weren't prepared how successful or how much people wanted this film. So we're trying to figure out how to best distribute the film and get it to the people, because again, at the end of the day, that's what we do as filmmakers or as entertainers. Period.
right,
We, even you as a podcast, you want people to listen to it. You want people to watch it. So if they can't watch it, they can't
right.
listen to it. Then what good are you? ¿Me entiendes?
No,
Same
no,
thing with the
definitely,
film.
man.
If they can't watch it, if they can't see it, then what good was the film?
Right. No, no, for sure. I mean, I agree, man. And of course, I mean, one of the things that we want to do is we want to be heard, we want to be seen, and we want to be able to provide content, man. Obviously, you guys are doing just that because, making movies is something that you're enjoying, that everybody else is enjoying, going along for the ride. I've got some perks that I've worked on, man. I mean, because I have a podcast, I've actually been working on voice acting. And that's one of the things that I want to pursue. I just want to be able to get into movies and just do what I can, but have fun with it. But I'm looking forward to it, man. I mean, it's a wild ride. I've been in this 5, 6 months that I've actually been making the podcast, but because I've been involved with combat sports, I've been able to do commentary, interviewing fighters on the whim, where they're just like, hey, here's so and so, man, you want to interview? And I'm just like, man, let's go.
Yeah,
So I've gotten out of that nervousness, but yeah, man, it's fun, dude. So I'm looking forward to it, bro. I appreciate you jumping on this. Of course, you guys have the Facebook.
yeah.
People can reach you on there. And I will be posting that on here. I'll be posting the links and sharing everything with the video, man. But I appreciate you, bro.
No, I appreciate you for having us. Again, it's a blessing and an honor to be on your podcast, because again, if nobody watches this, if nobody like says, hey dude, it was interesting enough to have you on, then okay, but
Right.
to have this privilege to be able to talk to somebody and spread the word, and to share a little bit of that love and that connection that we made with the film. And hopefully it's not the last connection that we made, because hopefully we will bring you on,
No,
and bring you onto our side of the house.
there
And
you go.
that way you have another connection, and we expand our little network of Latinos, of
Yeah.
Chicanos, of San Antonio people, because we are here, and we just need to make that presence heard, but we can do it.
No, no,
So
for sure,
thank you.
man. You see, thank you again, man. So, of course, everybody out there, man, once again, I mean, I'm here with David F. Mendez. Once again, thank you, sir. Everybody else, of course, sPidA here, the Coming Soon podcast. Make sure and log in, look us up. This video will be on YouTube. It'll be live on Twitter, of course, Facebook, and on Instagram. So, thank you once again, everybody out there. Till next time. Follow up.